In the chaos of war, courage often takes the shape of violence, bullets, blood, and bodies falling in the name of survival. But sometimes, courage looks like refusal. His name was Private Eli Turner, a quiet farm boy from Virginia, drafted in 1943 when the world was at its darkest hour. While others went to war with rifles, Turner carried something else, a conviction that no man should take another's life. It wasn't arrogance, nor fear, it was faith. He believed in God, but more than that, he believed in humanity. When he told his commanding officer that he wouldn't bear arms, the reaction was predictable, laughter followed by anger. "You're telling me you'll walk into hell without a weapon?" his sergeant barked. Turner simply nodded. "Sir, I'll go where you send me, but I won't kill." That decision nearly ended his military career before it began. To many, he was a coward. To others, a liability. Soldiers whispered that men like him got people killed, yet Turner persisted. He volunteered as a medic, not to fight, but to save. By 1945, his unit was shipped to Okinawa, one of the bloodiest battles of the Pacific War. The island was a fortress of death, cliffs, caves, and corpses scattered like forgotten prayers. Marines and infantry units clawed their way across mud and shrapnel under skies that rained steel. Turner A.S. Company was assigned to a place the men called Hacksaw Ridge, a sheer 400-foot escarpment where the Japanese defenders waited in hidden tunnels, turning the hillside into a slaughterhouse. Each morning, the Americans climbed up. Each night, they came back down, fewer than before. Turner climbed too, without a gun, without armor, without even a guarantee he'd come back. All he carried was a medic's satchel, bandages, morphine, and a Bible tucked into his pocket. The first days were a nightmare. Mortar shells split the air. The ridge erupted with machine gun fire. Turner dragged wounded men through mud so thick it clung to their boots like tar. He worked in silence, sometimes screaming only when the pain was too much to hide. A mortar landed near him once, close enough to shred his sleeve and rip open his arm. Still, he went on. He didn't pray for survival. He prayed for strength to crawl one more yard, reach one more man, tie one more tourniquet. At first, his fellow soldiers didn't trust him. They called him preacher, sometimes with respect, more often with mockery. "Let's see how much that Bible helps you when they come charging," one man sneered. But Turner wasn't there to prove them wrong. He was there to save them all the same. On April 29th, the company launched another assault up Hacksaw Ridge. They reached the plateau, but by mid-afternoon, the counterattack came like thunder. Machine gun fire raked the ridge. The air filled with screams. The line broke. "Fall back," came the order. Men ran, stumbled, jumped off the cliff to escape the inferno. Turner didn't move. He saw bodies, dozens, maybe hundreds, left behind. Wounded, bleeding, begging for help. His medic partner had been shot. Command was gone. The Japanese were closing in. He should have run. Instead, he whispered to himself, "God, let me save one more." That night, the ridge was a graveyard. Fires burned through what had once been trees. The cries of the dying echoed through the smoke. Turner crawled through it all, alone, unarmed, unseen. He found a man screaming for help, his leg shredded by shrapnel. Turner tied a tourniquet and dragged him toward the cliff. The man was twice his size, nearly unconscious. Inch by inch, Turner pulled him to the edge, tied a rope around his waist and lowered him down the sheer drop into waiting arms below. Then he went back, and again, and again. Each time he finished, he whispered the same words, "Please, Lord, and let me get one more." Through the darkness, he moved like a ghost, slipping between enemy patrols, crawling over bodies, bleeding from his own wounds. Bullets snapped inches above his head, but Turner never fired a single shot. By dawn, he had rescued more than 70 men. Some swore it was closer to 100. They called up to him, begging him to come down, but he refused. "There are still men up here," he shouted. "I can't leave them." His hands were blistered raw. His knees were torn open. But when they found him the next morning, he was still on his feet, swaying, delirious, clutching his Bible. The men who had once mocked him now called him a hero. When his sergeant came to see him, he didn't know what to say. The same man who once threatened to court-martial him now stood speechless, helmet in hand. "You didn't kill a single soul," he said quietly, "but you saved all of ours." Turner didn't reply. His lips trembled, eyes hollowed by exhaustion. "It wasn't me, sir," he murmured. "It was him." News of his actions spread through the division. Some said it was impossible, that one unarmed medic couldn't have carried that many men. Others said they'd seen it with their own eyes and still couldn't believe it. But Turner wasn't looking for belief. He wanted peace, something the war had long since buried. He stayed on Okinawa until the end, patching wounds and writing letters for dying soldiers. He never fired a weapon. He never took a life. Yet when the war ended, the men who'd fought beside him called him the bravest soldier they ever knew. When Turner returned home, there was no parade, no cheering crowd. Just a quiet train ride through green fields that reminded him of everything he lost and everything he saved. He built a small house near the Blue Ridge Mountains, married a nurse he'd met after the war, and rarely spoke of what he'd seen. Sometimes neighbors would notice him sitting on the porch, staring out toward the hills as if listening to something far away. But those who knew him said he still woke in the night, drenched in sweat, whispering the same words he had spoken on that ridge. "Please, Lord, let me get one more." For years his story remained untold, just another ghost of war fading with time, until one day, decades later, a group of veterans gathered for a reunion. They were older now, frail, bent, carrying the weight of memory like medals that would never fade. They spoke of many things, battles, losses, friends long gone, but when someone mentioned the name Eli Turner, the room fell silent. One man, a colonel now, grey and trembling, stood and said, "If not for him, I wouldn't be here. None of us would."